Welcome back to the One Line Away podcast. I'm your co-host, Tyler Weber.
And this is Cassie Weber. And in today's episode, we are going to open the conversation in regards to social media. Now, this isn't the type of episode where we're going to be like, oh, social media is so bad. We all need to get off our phones. No, that's not what this is about. I think that social media has been a huge tool in our journey, as well as it's kind of created some vicious habits or cycles in this walk. And we wanted to dissect certain areas of social media in different areas of the good, the bad, the ugly, and just kind of hear our thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's either here to help you or here to hurt you. It kind of depends on how you want to look at it. There's a lot of moments, as we'll get into here shortly, where it's helped us. And then there's also a lot of moments where we were like, well, probably shouldn't have looked that up.
Yeah.
Or probably wish we wouldn't have gone down that hole through what we're searching for.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for this to be brought to attention. And like Cassie said, we're not here to tell you like, hey, get off your phone, right?
Yeah.
Because there has been moments where it has helped us, and where being able to go into like other steps that we've gone through and throughout our journey, we're like, oh, maybe this would work. And you've done research and we've done research on, yeah, maybe this is the road to take. So,
yeah, I think it goes way back when we started this TTC journey. It was right around the time of like COVID, and TikTok got really popular, and everyone was at home and everyone had more time than they've ever had in their lives. And I really pressed into TikTok. And at that time when I was posting and I was like gaining traction in my videos, some of my videos were going viral, and I kind of created this, I feel like I like tiptoed, or I started dancing with the community, the infertility community. And that was one really cool memory. And I know social media I think it's just controversial in itself, but where it all started for me was TikTok. Like I felt like TikTok was a platform that gave me the voice that I was looking for, maybe, or I just needed to, I was so lost. I was so uneducated, to be honest, in what this world was. And I really found some really cool connections. And social media is it's so quick to make you famous, and it's so quick to make you feel forgotten. And I'm not here to say I was like social media famous or anything, but there was many videos in my time of really posting about our infertility and the things that I was working on or going through and the updates. And I was very vocal about what we were going through. And I paint that in a really good picture because at that time it really was. It was really fun, and it made me feel like infertility wasn't so serious.
I've had multiple moments where people are like, man, you guys are posting a lot on your like social media. It was back during the TikTok phase. And I don't think they understood how kind of like this, right, therapeutic it was for you to reach out and talk to people within the community, but also how far it reached.
Yeah.
Like when I think a lot of people that I talked to, they were kind of like, oh, you're sharing, like we kind of had that stigma of, oh, you're sharing stuff about
You're the only ones at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I would tell them like, yeah, like this video had this many likes, like thousands and thousands of likes on it or views on it. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, she's reached people around the world, like not just in Colorado or in the US or right. She's reached people around the world, and they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, she's had conversations with people about it. Like,
I think
it's bigger than what you think than just a dumb video. It's bigger than that. Like it reached people.
I think what was really fascinating is I got to experience the really good part about social media.
Yeah.
I feel very lucky to have been able to experience it. And yeah, I'd get a couple hate comments here and there, but I truly like the TTC community. I don't know what it was before TikTok. I mean, I wasn't in that community, but like I owe a lot to TikTok for my healing or like validation that I was needing in certain parts of our journey. Like this is why I'm very passionate about TikTok, because like I gained out of I mean, we haven't gained much in this journey, but I had gained small wins and small bounces because of TikTok and the TTC infertility community.
A lot of it, yeah. And you brought lightness or some light to other people and yourself
Yeah.
throughout this, right? When you're going through it, you think you're going through it alone.
Yeah.
And now that we've been in this part, we realize this community is huge.
It's unfortunate how big it is.
Unfortunately huge. But it's also cool that TikTok brought all those people together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
I mean, we'll get into the bad of it. Like how you said, there's people
Yeah.
that leave the comments that just think their opinions need to be heard all the time. And it's like, just
Mhm.
stay, stay in your lane.
Yep.
And I felt like during that time, it was perfect. Because I think it was like the first 2 years when we were going through that stuff.
You had so
where
much hope.
I think we had the hope, and I wasn't going. It wasn't like affecting me
In the way.
as much as it was you. So it was a perfect outlet for you to be
Mhm.
able to like go to that.
I just felt
community.
invigorated by
Mhm.
posting. Like, I feel like it was so educational. I was at, like, in certain episodes, I was describing certain surgeries I was having and how to prepare for them and what to expect and things that I feel like weren't educated very well
Mhm.
in certain procedures that were done. Different tips. I really enjoyed the IVF stage that we filmed, which is kind of sad because we actually didn't film. Like, I look back at everything that I do have, and I have everything, but I did have that phase where we did shut down everything, and we
It
stopped
was after the first
transfer.
transfer.
Yeah.
When it failed, we were like, we're just going
Private.
0 dark 30 on everything.
Yeah.
So.
And so I'm a little bit sad about that. But again, I think it was really important for us we kind of dabbled in different approaches in our journey up until this point. Like, being really vocal and being really into social media. And then there was times where we completely we closed that door. And I look at it now and I'm a little bit disappointed that I allowed my shame and my guilt and my mental crisis that I was going through. I allowed that to swallow some of the really good things that I got from sharing and being vocal.
Well, especially when you don't get your like happy ending at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think we would still do it again.
Yeah.
Right? Where after the first retrieval, it was exhausting.
It was terrible.
It was exhausting having to make like the videos and
yeah,
for something that didn't happen. And like I've started following some accounts. Like there's a couple accounts that I followed on Instagram. Like I don't know how they keep posting.
I know.
Right? There was like this one account that I started following, and they just had another failed IVF attempt, and I'm like, man, you guys are strong. Mm-hmm. Like one of the videos is her crying, and it's like, man, you are.
I remember
you are tough. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how you guys keep going, but good for you guys.
It's that safety of this community.
Mm-hmm.
It's the safety that you feel like being so vulnerable with the right people, and you can't control. Again, social media is so uncontrollable. You will find people. Bad people will always find good things, and they'll always find a way to ruin a good thing. However, I don't know what it is about the TTC or the infertility community, but they're dang good people.
Mm-hmm.
They're dang good supporters, and it takes a lot to choose in this terrible group that we're in. It takes a lot for us to be as good as we still are.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fast. It's cool. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's helped that it's people that understand by experience versus trying to understand, which is still awesome. Like, I'll never discredit people who aren't
outside
going through it. Who aren't going through it, that are trying to understand, and some of them do understand. They're like, wow, we've kind of been with you the whole journey, you know? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's awesome to have a community that understands because they've gone through the same thing. And you don't have to sit here and try to validate your feelings. They're like, I know. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Education. Being educated, I honestly owe it to social media, specifically TikTok, for the amount of education I've been able to collect and understand. Google just is not the same. When we were doing progesterone shots, you do that on your back, like really, really low, almost like above your butt. And it is extremely painful. That's one of the most painful shots. And I learned from a combination of videos, of education videos from other people that were going through it, they were sharing different things that worked for them, whether it was the numbing cream or which order you're numbing or heating, or I mean, there was things that I was able to put together because of TikTok, because there's someone like us out there courageous enough to talk and share about these things. And so that was a really good example, educating yourselves on what's normal and not normal. I figured out, I was told that I was crazy when we did our first IUI, and I was so extremely sick. And I told them exactly my symptoms, what I was feeling. And TikTok told me first that I was having a infection from the procedure. And when I went to our clinic about that, they did not believe me. So I had to go to my normal doctor and explain, it's like re-explaining, I've been through this, we just did this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I found this information and I believe that I'm having a negative reaction to this procedure, to the IUI. And sure enough, they're like, yeah, it's rare, but it can happen. And so then I go to my clinic, and I allegedly am the first person in their clinic to have gotten this infection. Wild. So it's things like that I feel like TikTok.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, like it. I was so frustrated because I'm not talking me necessarily towards the clinic, because our clinic was great, but at the same point, I'm like, I remember it's all like, we're gonna have to do a video at some point about advocating for yourself, because I remember in that moment, I'm like, well, TikTok's matching exactly what's going on with me and what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. And they like, I have the information. I was told that I was like, it literally wasn't true, that I was false. And I turned out in the end it was true. I had a very rare infection from it.
You would.
I would. I really would. If there's anything that goes wrong in any of fertility treatments, it's me. Also, not to make this, I need to move on from this part, but the education part, this is why it's like so cool. This is like the really good part about social media is I was having really terrible reactions to letrozole. There is TikToks. I don't know if I've hid everything from our journey from social media, which I'm disappointed by, but I've archived, and I have all of our TikTok videos with all of our fertility stuff. And I was breaking out in full body breakouts and rash while I was taking letrozole. And I was able to do research through social media, and I found out, I'm allergic to letrozole. So then then again, you're a test animal at that point, where I then tried Clomid, and Clomid didn't react the same. So it's those weird things in this journey that, like, not that it's really been talked about, but there's things that I feel like TikTok told me before. Like, I was educating the people that should be educating me. And again, we just need to like stop that and pause that for another video, because there's so much to be said about education and advocating for yourself.
Definitely.
So much. We've been through so much with that. So that was something that I wanted to highlight in how cool social media has been a tool and a really good resource in our infertility journey.
The last thing I wanted to say about the good part of social media is we're obviously able to do this, right? This is a aspect of social media that we're able to utilize and help spread the word, help raise awareness for a lot of our videos that we're going to be putting out and we have put out.
Yeah. It's again, social media can be used as such it can be used in such amazing and powerful ways. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with humans, a lot of things are ruined, but I really appreciate that this podcast is an example of, hopefully, we hope with all our hearts, is one of those that can be a really good outlet for people like us.
Now, on the other hand, you have the bad aspects of social media, which I hate talking about it, but there is always something. There's always,
Mhm.
especially when you go on this journey long enough, there's sides of social media that you wish you never saw with, especially this infertility world that we're going through.
Just as much as social media has been a really good resource for us, it also has caused or made things worse for us
Or more difficult.
or more difficult. There's many areas to this. I think to start off with, it's just like when you Google, "Hey, my head hurts," and then it goes immediately to you have cancer. It's kind of like that in the infertility world.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much misinformation out there. Of course, that's not the intention, I'm sure, but it's as simple as like if you Google how much does an IVF transfer cost, you're going to be told a number for that state of Colorado. And I get so frustrated because one, it's not true because it's so different for every person. And it's just not painting the correct picture. Like I remember Googling how much is an IVF transfer before like going into the, like actually a clinic and getting their quote. And it was something like, oh, IVF costs like 10 to 20,000. And that's laughable. It's literally laughable at this point. And it's just, it's things like that where misinformation of like not being able to properly prepare for something or, thinking you're dealing with this, but really it's that. I think to switch over to the self sabotaging, this is a really big one. I think this one would really resonate with most everyone that's walking this type of journey. Tyler and I are in a season where most everyone has either had kids or they're literally like dropping like flies, dropping pregnancy announcements every single day in our social circle. And those people deserve to do exactly that. But when you're on our side of it, there is nothing wrong with being happy for someone, but being also equally as sad for yourself. I have to remind myself of that a lot because I lately my like coping mechanism is I try to stop myself when I'm feeling really hurt or upset and I'm like, why am I feeling like this? Why am I upset that they're pregnant? Or why am I upset that everything's going their way? Why am I upset about that? And then it helps me kind of write out, okay, I've had a really tough day today emotionally, or, this situation, like this thing outside of our journey, like this normal life thing is happening and it's triggering me to be really short or my emotions aren't strong today. Like, you just have to be so in tune with your body and your mental state. I appreciate this podcast because it's putting new thoughts forward for me that I feel like can really help me as I'm saying it. Right? Like, Cassie, if you're dealing with this today, maybe stay off of Facebook.
Or if the first thing you see on Facebook is this,
Close it.
maybe close it for
Yeah.
a day or till
Whenever,
tonight
yeah.
or something.
It's not that you like definitely like I don't know, it's our form of communication, it's our form of life in today's time, but when you are in this infertility journey, this is something that I definitely think I could get so much better at protecting myself is doom scrolling everyone's perfect lives. When I'm not experiencing that or I'm not feeling like I'm experiencing that on my side, that's when I need to protect myself and let it go.
And that's the big
And
thing.
what I mean by letting it go, that can be a very triggering comment or sentence for people, but I mean letting it go meaning like I need to be strong enough to close the app, to say not today.
I think when you say you have to do it for yourself, like we have to do things for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If it's at the benefit of someone else, you can only do that so many times
Yeah.
before you internally combust, I would
Yeah.
say.
When you
Because
just,
you have to learn, and it's kind of learning with everything.
mm-hmm,
It's relationships, it's a lot of topics that we've already discussed. You have to learn when to turn it off for you.
mm-hmm,
You know, be
yeah.
happy for them, show your support for them, But if you need to turn it off, turn it off. If you
Yep.
need to close the app, close the app. If you need to walk away and you need to go home,
Do
go
it.
home.
Yeah, definitely. I've been struggling, and this goes in with like guilty, like feeling guilty for struggling with this, but I have been recently very sensitive towards pregnancy announcements and like baby updates on social media. And I don't know why that's happening right now. I think it's just because it is the new year and I don't know what's coming and I don't have a plan and I'm not trying to control what's going on with us right now. I'm really trying to allow the work that needs to be done happen, and I'm tired of continuing to force control in our lives because it just hasn't worked that way for us. It's made so many things worse. And that's just something I hate. That's true, but I'm that's why this social media episode felt so on time to do right now. Is I just feel like I've been struggling and trying to find my emotions towards it and why I'm feeling this way right now. And I just want people that are listening to this to understand that, like, though we're doing certain episodes and maybe portraying them as strong as we can, it doesn't mean we're not struggling the same that you are on the other side. I cry all the time. I meet with people or talk with people all the time. And every week I'm dreading something, dreading a conversation I know I'm going to be having or dreading someone I'll be around. And it's just because when you're hurting, it's hard. It's hard to navigate those emotions. And social media is so big in our world that that's where sometimes it gets so loud. There's things that I need to do to keep myself busy so that I protect my heart.
One thing that you kind of talked about earlier with you had some negative comments on like TikTok and the videos that you had. Were they IVF based and just like the stigma around IVF? Were they like what were those about? And I just want to see if you'll dive into those a little bit.
I never got big enough to feel like I needed to control comments that were being said because I would receive certain negative comments that would be like, "Oh, sucks to be you," or you haven't been in this for very long, or you weren't meant to have kids. Like there's so many stupid, and I know
They
that's not a
actually
good word.
said that?
Yeah, like
No way.
yeah, like people are brutal out there. And I just don't think that that's where the hurt comes in. I think what's damaging to your soul is when it's someone that you know. I think the social media aspect where it's like I think the topic of us just straight up sharing anything that we've started sharing from the very beginning, understanding that behind closed doors or from phone to phone, videos being sent to someone or the conversations that people are having about us behind our back. Again, you can't control any of that in life. And that's a very big character thing on that person's end. And I definitely feel strong about that. Like again, I only can take on what Tyler and I have right now in our life. So honestly, everything outside of my control or my fear of, or my this conversation that we're having right now or on this topic, like that's the least of my worry, truly. And I don't mean that to sound any type of way. It's honestly like you can only deal with so much in your life. You can't do it all at one time. And that is such a low, I get no reward from that, where I get a reward from working on Tyler and I. And being in a community that's healthy for us and sharing our lives with people that love us and bring us life back into our life. So I think the twist to the risk of social media is understanding that behind closed doors or behind things being sent, you're opening up a vulnerability that you are out of control with, of other people outside of your social circle or in your social circle that really aren't rooting for you, and understanding that they're taking our content and creating their own narrative,
Well, that
you
just
know?
ties into like what I said earlier about how I had people come up to me and say like, "Why are you guys sharing that?"
Mm-hmm.
Or right, and then it's like, for one, it's therapeutic, right?
Yeah.
It's like we have this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
like it's therapeutic and it helps us, but it helps people
Yep.
and it raises awareness. Like you wouldn't have known a lot of that information that you heard about or watched on TikTok if it wasn't for
Yeah.
people sharing on TikTok.
I honestly can't imagine what that would look like, what it would look like to have never shared anything in our journey. Because the time that we didn't share was the most brutal, the most not understanding people were in our life, the most unforgiving people were in our life. I think when someone decides to share, you open yourself up for judgment. You open yourself up for, again, not knowing really what's being said about you.
A lot of it, just from what I can kind of gather, is people just they don't want like the shame, or they don't want to be like, oh well, kind of like the comments like, well that sucks, or they don't want like the pity
Mm-hmm.
from it. But it's so, as unfortunate as it is, and like we said earlier, it's so common right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's bringing light to it and making people not feel like they should have shame, or they should have guilt, or they should have like they hate their lives and
Mm-hmm.
they shouldn't go into a dark place, which is why it needs more light.
Yeah.
Like, which is why when we decided to do this podcast 6 months ago, we were like, let's do it. If there's anything that we can get from it and we can help people through this time,
Mm-hmm.
why would you not? And the fact that people have to like try to throw like shame on us for trying wanting to make a podcast or wanting to share it on social media, when in turn it helped me out and you out, and it helped out those people that reached out to us.
Yeah.
It helped us out, and we wanted to be able to like help people out, because
Mm-hmm.
finding those TikTok videos helped us a lot.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we can do and help ourselves in turn, why not?
Yeah. I think it's actually really, this is a big part of this video. I hope people make it to this part of the video because I want to make it very clear that the fact that you have come full circle to talking the way that you talk about this journey is so cool.
Because I was not all
No,
about posting.
I think what's really important to say is like, what a flip that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me emotional. It really does. I think you were dealing with, I mean, we've dealt with similar emotions at different times. And it's really special for me to hear this side of you because there was just some times where you and I were dealing with such terrible shame
Mm-hmm.
and embarrassment and all those gross, ucky feelings that you feel in infertility that I remember you being so against being
Yeah.
vocal, and it wasn't ever to the point where you didn't stand by me. It was one of those where I'm going to give you my opinion and I'm going to give you my boundary of what you can share, but please, like, respect me as well in this. And I hope I did that. I think I always did try to meet with you in that. It's weird that we kind of flip-flopped where I shut down. I completely shut down on sharing anything on social media in a certain part of our journey. And that took a lot of time. Like, it took over a year for me, maybe almost like a year and a half. And when you approached me with this whole podcast idea, like, I don't know if everyone's gotten that to its fullest of like, this was your idea. And I was in a really terrible place when you did approach me about it.
That's why you yelled at me.
Yeah. I remember, like, I feel so bad because I think in that moment it was one of those things where I was like, nope, my life sucks. We have no more money. Like, we have nothing to give. I have nothing to show for anymore. It's
Yeah,
it's such a nasty pill to swallow. And then I think internally I was working on healing and trusting the people around me that were rooting for me and praying for me and helping me out of a very terrible, terrible place that I was in. And I'm very thankful that I was able to wrap my head around the goodness that this could be. I think something that I don't want to say that this, I don't want this to come across wrong, but when we talked to our pastor about this, I kind of just wanted that approval. And I don't want that to come across wrong. I think I just needed someone in my faith side of things to make me feel like it was okay again to talk about it. Because I feel like for a long time, the people in my life, kind of all around me, were okay with me not sharing. We're okay with that. And I don't mean that in any type of way. And I know certain people are going to be listening to this and feeling really, really terrible about that. But I don't mean it in that way. I really don't. I think that was out of a protection of myself because I was in a very, very dark place that some of the closest people in my life knew how bad it was and how much worse it probably was at home, that I knew they did it was out of their heart. It's all about, like, when you know their heart of why they're saying, like, maybe you need to take a step back from sharing certain things. And that would make me really mad. But it was right in that time because I think in turn I could have caused more damage to myself, to my journey of healing.
it is.
And getting at least to this point of my journey of being, I feel like right now I wake up and I feel like I have purpose in life and just sticking around for a little longer every day.
Well, that's why there isn't a lot of fertility podcasts.
There's not. I mean, there's
not,
some, and I'm so glad there are.
Yeah, there's a few, and there's, even if you just type it in on social media, like
it's hard
Instagram
to find
there's
some.
not a lot of infertility like accounts,
or it's of the same people.
Yeah,
right.
And that's why it's a tough topic to talk about every week.
Yeah,
right. And it's bringing back all these stories that we have, like the comments thing. I didn't even know that. I didn't read the comments. Didn't want to watch the video. Liked the video.
Moved on.
Didn't want to read the comments, especially for the few that went viral. I was like, I don't want to read comments.
Yeah.
And if I did, I'd look at like the first two and think, oh wow, those are nice. But I wouldn't scroll down far enough to read like the negative ones or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a hard topic to be able to talk about, and it's not a lot of people want. I don't know. They don't want to bring. I wouldn't even say they don't want to bring awareness. Everyone wants to bring awareness to something that they're going through,
right?
But I think it's exactly what I just said. They don't want to have to relive it.
Yeah, it's hard
because that's what every week that we record, we're reliving it. Right?
Reliving something.
We're reliving a portion of it, right?
Whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, we talk about stuff that we haven't brought up for a while, or we forgot about, and I'm like, oh geez, you know.
And again, I still, like, it's so hard to wrap my head around this, that it's like the quote unquote, it's only been almost 4 years, and I look at that on paper and I'm like, okay, like, that's not terrible, but then when you actually sit in that, I'm like, that's far too long for anyone.
It's like going back to college, 4 years.
It's just, yeah, that's weird. No amount of time is right when it's in this type of light.
And it's harder for us because we're making a podcast and we still don't have the happy ending. People can have their baby in the end and make a podcast knowing in the end
that they got
what they went through all the trouble for.
Yeah.
We're still doing this
unknown.
We're still in the cave and we don't see the light. So I think it's even harder, and it takes more vulnerability to be able to do like what we're doing with this. I would
Mm-hmm.
say, because I mean,
Yeah.
coming in here and
Well,
talking about everything.
yeah. And I think it's something like on a realistic side, we of course want this to get out to as many people as possible. We also want it to be as organic as it can be. I don't want to start scraping for follows or scraping for attention. I want it to be organic. Like I want this to take its time to find the right community or the right people in this community that this could really fill certain holes in their journey.
That can help them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I feel like, our goal has been every video to gain a couple more conversations, a couple more shares, or a couple more followers because it feels like it's natural and it's organic. And again, it's such a question mark. We don't know what this is. We don't know if this is just for us or just for our immediate social circle. We don't know what this is meant for, but we're just really trusting in our hearts and letting that find the right people.
We're trying to just make all the episodes we can, so then at the end we're not like, oh man,
I wish we would have.
I wish we would have talked about this, or I wish we would have done this.
I don't
And
want to
if,
regret anything anymore.
no, and
I
if
don't.
if that turns into 15 episodes, then it's going to turn into 15 episodes.
Yeah.
I feel like each week, like we didn't even have this social media one down on our original outline for what we wanted to talk about.
Yep.
We had like 10 topics we wanted to talk about, and this one wasn't in it.
Right.
And I think even the one last week wasn't even in it.
No, it's been very raw. Like
so each week we're like, hey, what should we talk about? And then
this is what's hurting right now.
The day that we're about to record, boom, we come up with it. We write down ideas, and here we are. So
it's been really helpful. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, this is allowing us this moment as much as we hope that it's giving someone on the other side this moment as well. But I have really appreciated that we're doing this while we're going through this, because it's like every week, I feel like every Sunday we're looking at what has been pressing on our minds this week. It's a very week by week. And I think that that's really special. Like it's really powerful and it's very therapeutic. And I just love, I think to end this and go into our goodbyes of this episode, I love the new light in some of the relationships that we've had in our lives, but I love the new light that's been shed on some of these people in our lives. Like it's really, really healing to feel like you are moving an area of someone's heart.
Even to people who aren't even going through a journey.
No.
That is similar to ours. People are like, I listen to your podcast and I love it.
It just
like
means
you guys are so brave, and it's really cool to be able to like hear that, even from someone that's not even going through what we're going through.
They could be 60, they could be 40, they could be.
It doesn't matter, and they're just
10.
like, they're like, wow, you guys are doing a great job. It's so cool to hear, and and the messages we receive that with people that are going through it. Right, just saying thank you. Like I've listened to your podcast and I love it, and it's helped me. Like that's why we're doing this.
Yeah. There's one in particular too that has someone in our life that has been a huge support on this journey for us, and she's her comments are opening up that narrative of like, I had no clue, but I'm so thankful that you're doing this because it's allowed me to learn more than I thought my threshold could bear to understand,
If there's anyone out there that has an idea for a podcast or something that is on your heart or something that's been weighing you down over the last few weeks, let us know.
Yeah.
Shoot us a message.
We feel like we have endless episode opportunities. And if there's something that you would love to request, little episode request, we would love to hear it and think on it and help someone else out there that's really seeking something specific in their lives right now.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys next week.